So I did my research study on coronavirus crime. What is this? This is basically the crime that happens during the point of coronavirus. More specifically, the research study that I did, I looked at was the crime in the time of the stay-at-home orders in Los Angeles and Indianapolis. What First off, what are we looking for in the study? Basically, does social distancing and this stay-at-home order have an effect on crime in LA and Indianapolis? The first thing I want to talk about is methods. Well, what the authors of my study are trying to look for is the differences in amounts of the calls for law enforcement services before, during, and after the stay-at-home orders in LA and Indianapolis. The time period that they focused on was the stay-at-home order, and when it was implemented. This is March 20th through April 18th in LA, and in Indianapolis, it was the 24th of March through the 21st of April. The authors of this study basically got a hold of the police departments in their respective cities and was like, hey, we're going to do a study. Can you do some self-report for us on the different calls for service that you guys get? And we're going to keep track of what you guys get and do some study and look at the different amounts of crime and how they have fluctuated in the time period. So simple enough. The results that the authors of the study got were pretty easy to comprehend. The big results was that most household crimes like vandalism, burglary, and other armed robberies were down during the time of the stay-at-home order. I think basically because people are staying home and nobody's going to get robbed in their home. Vehicle crimes were down in numbers a little bit, as well were traffic stops. We can assume this because we can also assume this without looking at this because people weren't on the roads really, so you can't really, get busted if you're not out there. And lastly, there's a larger increase in domestic violence calls, which also continued here, as I say, continued afterwards as well. Basically, as people are staying home, they're kind of scared of the virus. They don't want to get caught with it and hurt their family, whatever. But this also leads to different family altercations at the house. Overall, the results showed that crime was slightly lower in LA compared to Indianapolis. This isn't really part of the study, but it's just something I wanted to say. Lastly, in summary, what did we find? Overall, there was a somewhat decrease in crime throughout the lockdown because of the lack of people out in the environment. This is a given, I think. There's less traffic stops, less vehicle crime, less homicide, and a little bit more domestic crime because people are staying home when they're not out there. The first three here, traffic stop, vehicle crime, homicide, isn't really going to happen when nobody's out. So that's another, natural statistic. Lastly, this rise in domestic crime, like I said, I'm just kind of repeating myself here. People are home with their families. It's going to get old. People are going to get upset. There's going to be like some rough altercations. The police are going to have to get called. So, there's nothing you can really do about it. Lastly, the thing is I want to touch on this domestic violence is that not all of these calls are violent crime. Sometimes it's just like family and marriage fights that people want to stay safe and they just want to make sure nothing bad's going to go wrong. So they're like, hey, could you come help us resolve this or something like that? Lastly, it's kind of hard to critique those domestic violence calls because you don't really know what's going on until you get there. So overall, domestic violence rose a little bit because of people staying home. Every other crime in the world really honestly did pretty well during the stay-at-home orders. So that's it. That's all I got.